Deadman Armageddon is coming, and if you haven't played Deadman before, it is one of the greatest things in any game at all, and you don't have to be a PvPer to enjoy it. It is tons of fun, even if you're a skiller or a PVMer, plus you can make absolute bank here. This game mode is like printing money. So as usual, I'll be doing a ton of helpful videos this year for Deadman, but first, this is everything that you're gonna need to know, including what is new this year. If you've never played before, this is a game mode where everyone starts on a brand new account, so it's completely fair. You get 10 times the XP you would do normally, including the rewards that you get from quests, plus unique drops such as God War's Dungeon Armor, raid items, the Abyssal Whip and so on have an increased drop chance. As you increase your combat level, this goes up even further, and at combat level 71, your XP multiplier increases to 15 times what you would normally get in the main game. When you start out and every time you reach a new bracket, you'll also receive 1 hour of protection where you can't be killed by other players. Because most of Gillinor is PvP and Deadman, meaning you can attack anyone, but don't worry, if that's not your thing, you can skill in safe zones, you can even train combat in safe zones, and if you're smart, you can boss without worrying about PKs too, which I'll show you how to do later. To add to the risk though, dying in Deadman means you lose everything that you got with you at the time, but also 80% of the 10 most valuable stacks of items within your bank. It even cancels any offers that you got on the GE and then puts them into your bank before working out the 10 most valuable stacks. You can't even reduce your risk by giving items to an alt because that's classed as muling and it's against the rules. You do have a safety deposit box though, which can be accessed by the wizard at most banks and the Grand Exchange. He will store 10 items that you can't lose no matter what, even if you die. Now this is 10 items, not 10 stacks of items, so if you had say a stack of 10 sharks for example, that would take up all the room in your safety deposit box. Now if you're here to make bank, the other way you can reduce risk is to sell your things and transfer your money into the normal game mode, which is allowed. You see, players will buy Deadman gold and items for a lot of money, and they pay for any money that you make in Deadman by paying you on 07. For the first hour, they pay you as much as 10,000 times as much as you make in Deadman, so every 1 GP you make, they will pay you 10,000 GP in the main game. Simply going to the stronghold of security and getting your 10,000 GP can make you as much as 10 million GP, but the amount they pay does reduce over time as more money comes into the game. Even still, at the end of day 1, they're usually paying anywhere between 50 and 100 times as much, and even after a week, it's usually about 5 times as much at that point. That does carry a risk because one of you needs to trust trade, and obviously that comes with the usual problems, but there are clans that do this throughout the Deadman mode, and I recommend going into one of their clan chats early just to make sure they're legit and using one of those instead of trust trading a random person. Similar to leagues, in Deadman mode you can also get powerful buffs called Sigils. There's a whole bunch of these that give you various benefits like 3 times as many resources when skilling, extra damage, extra accuracy, reduced damage, faster health regeneration and so on. This year there's a few tweaks to the ones last time, as well as a few new ones that they've announced. I'm sure we'll get more as time goes by, but the one that interests me the most so far is the Sigil of Revoke limitation. Now this allows all Revenant weapons to be used outside of the wilderness, but to still give the extra 50% accuracy and damage that they usually give just in the wilderness. You get one of these sigils for free when you first start out in Deadman, along with a starter pack, and you can get another one for free every single day of Deadman from the combat tutors in Lumbridge. The starter pack you get also contains a bow, a staff and a sword, similar to training weapons, only much better. The staff has 500 charges and the bow has 2,000. Now you can just buy sigils on the GE from other players, but the other way to get them is to kill things. But if you want to get the most powerful sigils, which are the tier 3 ones, you are realistically going to need to be in bracket 5. That's because they only drop it in brackets 4 and 5, but they're very rare in bracket 4. You typically also have a much higher drop rate for these when you kill things that are over combat level 100. Sigils aren't the only things that you get from killing things, because any creature killed that's not in a safe zone can drop supplies, such as stacks of herbs, potions, runes or food. You can also get emblem drops, which can be traded for various items at the emblem trader at the GE in a safe zone. There's also another place that you can get drops unique to Deadman, which is from breaches. These are bosses that can spawn in various places across Gillinor at set times, and they drop corrupted weapons, which are slightly weaker versions of the usual weapons we have, such as the scythe and the T-bow. This year, those weapons are a little bit better than they were last year, and even though they are weaker versions, they're still really popular and in demand because players only have a few weeks to gear up for the finals, and that's really not a lot of time at all, so there's generally not enough of the best gear to go around. Now, all of the breaches are in PvP zones, and whilst most players going to these will be there for the boss drops, if you turn up in expensive gear, you're gonna get targeted. Some of these are also in multi-combat areas, so this is the multi-combat map for old school RuneScape just for reference. Another unique aspect of Deadman is that you can't instantly log out, making PKing much easier. To escape, a player needs to either freeze and log out, get to a safe zone, or teleport if you're not in combat and you're quick enough. That's because if you are in combat, there's a delay before you can teleport away. On the flip side, if you're a PKer, a skilled player can't enter a safe zone, or high level guards will attack you and almost always kill you. Because this is a limited time game mode, we also get automatic quest unlocks. At each combat bracket, some quests will automatically complete, giving you access to any areas, bosses or items that those quests would usually unlock. Plus you also get a choice of between 2 quest chains to unlock. Now these also complete all of the pre-quests needed for that quest, and again any areas that those quests unlock, items, bosses and so on. That's all of the rules of Deadman, and you can practice this game mode on World 345, which is the permanent Deadman world, although it is an older version, so there's no breaches, you get PvP protection for a lot longer at the start, and there are a few other small things like the Emblem Trader is in Edgeville, not in a safe zone rather than a GE, but it's a good place to practice and most of it is the same. You can also win real money playing this game, and the prize pool this year is $25,000, which you can get for being the last person alive in the final battle if you choose to do it. This is essentially a Royal Rumble, and fog will descend slowly over time, pushing players into a final location where they all fight to the death, and the last person alive is the ultimate champion, and this is done on 5 different worlds. You can also win money in a different way without PvP by simply scoring points, which you get by killing bosses. This year, those points will be reduced massively by a whopping 90% to any boss after your 75th kill, so you're going to need to change it up quite a lot this year and move from one boss to another if you want to finish high up. But this is why Deadman is so good. It's got a little bit of something for everyone, and although I will be doing an in-depth guide on how to approach different playstyles, this is why this game mode is good for you too, even if you're not a PKer. Don't get me wrong, PKs will have a great time here and also make an absolute fortune if they want to, because there's going to be players at almost every single boss, in every Slayer cave, at all the hotspots, at every teleport location that you can kill or fight. But as a PVMer or a skillet, you don't have to get involved in any of that if you don't want to. Most cities are safe zones and will give you a ton of places to skill far away from the action, and the G is also a safe zone too, meaning you can buy all the items needed and skill in front of it and never have to leave. Crafting, for example, is usually amazing money, so is flipping. You can buy items from the shops nearby and simply sell them on the GE to make money, plus places like the Gnome Stronghold are safe zones that has tons of skill and activities such as agility, woodcutting, fishing, fletching and so on, and it also has creatures that you can even safe spot and train your combat up with. The Warriors Guild's another safe zone as well, with a food shop, so you can train up to any level you want there, and if you want to go skilling or bossing in a PvP zone, you can, and you can even do the following. The first and very easy tactic you can do is just to rush a high bracket, because this will give you a few days where you typically don't have to worry about PKs. Most players that rush the top bracket are PVMers or PvPers that want to go and farm the best gear for themselves first before they're going to worry about PKing anyone. Even the ones that are PKs that rush the top brackets need to gear up first before they can kill anyone anyway, so it typically means you get 2 to 3 days without much trouble at all in the top bracket, so long as you can put the time in needed. The other tactic that I used last time was I finished longer difficult quests that unlock new areas, which were going to auto-complete at a higher bracket anyway, whilst I was still in a low bracket myself. Now that seems completely stupid and pointless, and it would be, but because I was one of the only few players that thought of doing it, I was the only one with access to the Elven Lands in bracket 1 for 3 days, since you have to complete the underground pass to get there, which is a really annoying quest. Then with the 5 times gathering boost that we got last time and the automatic banking, this made me about 400 million GP AFK simply mining these rune rocks here and then hopping worlds. Alternatively, I had another account of the Firewatch in bracket 2. Again, this account was AFK and there was just one other player here for days before someone else finally showed up. And that's because no one else could access the area. It has a long quest chain which automatically unlocked in bracket 4 with a boss that is difficult to kill at low levels, so I did it in bracket 2 knowing not many other players would or could do it. Every blood shard I got here was 25 million GP of 07 money, plus I was getting sigils too. I also watched a video on Solo Mission and he did something similar by getting a fire cape in bracket 1, because most players can't do that and it gave him access to the rune rocks in the south of Dazar just past the door. Don't get me wrong, inevitably a PK will eventually show up or players fight between themselves for resources, but I could have just done the Hallowed Sepulchre, for example, in bracket 2, and I would have never ever been PK'd. And you're going to make absolute bank doing any kind of similar strategy to that, and it's not really worth PKs doing it to kill you. I mean, why waste a day getting all those stats and all those quests done to kill 1 or 2 extra people when there's just so many people out there to kill anyway? Deadman mode is a ton of fun no matter what you're into, with an added game of cat and mouse between PKs of all levels, PVMers, and even skillers gone rogue. And in the next video, I'll be giving all the hints and tips I've learned from years of playing this game mode.